Mr. Johnson, at your age, you still can't properly create an Excel spreadsheet. It's really a hassle.
I'm sorry. I'm just not good with computers. Hey. New employee in his third year. Richards once again managed to make a sarcastic comment, causing me to shrug. The pathetic, forced smile I put on to get through these moments is embarrassing. After 20 years on the job, I find myself suddenly 43. Most of my friends from college have climbed the corporate ladder and started families. But I remain a low-paid regular employee, considered a burden in my department. My lack of quick wit and adaptability seem to override my innate seriousness. To add to that, I'm terrible at communication, only managing to put on a bland smile during social events. I have no knack for flattering my superiors with clever compliments, which has kept me far from any promotions. Richard seems to have a problem with me leeching off the company and takes the chance to pick on me almost every day. His little digs are one thing, but there have even been times when he's intentionally not shared vacation treats with me. No one in the office steps in. They just stand by and laugh. Of course, Richards is the more valuable member in this department. They probably think it's better to have a scapegoat like me to keep the office running smoothly. People say life begins at 40, but I find myself constantly second-guessing. Did I make the right choice joining this company? Was it right to stick around without any position past 40? Should I have switched jobs when I was still energetic in my 20s? During one particularly disheartening moment, I accidentally overheard a conversation between Richards and a colleague in the break room.
Why are you always so hard on Mr. Johnson? It's kind of sad.
He's got nothing going for him. He's smelly, dirty, and annoying. His feet are definitely filled with fungus when he takes his socks off. And he can't even use Excel. It's just pathetic.
Well, I do wish he could at least create a PowerPoint for the meeting material.
He's just stealing his salary. Isn't it weird that he's still single at that age?
I heard he had a girlfriend in college. She probably dumped him because he wasn't going anywhere.
I wonder what he finds joy in living for.
My fist shook at the unbearable harsh words. Before I actually went to confront them, I turned around and poured out all my curses for Richards onto my computer, only to delete them all. Let them say what they want. All I have to do is keep diligently doing my work. At this point, I don't even care for promotions. It'd be a blessing if I can simply kill time till I retire. One evening, as I was enjoying a canned coffee on the company rooftop, Richards showed up. I grimaced at the sight of the unpleasant person, but she seemed to not notice me at all and walked unsteadily toward the railing. And then, "Hey, what are you doing?" I was shocked as she casually gripped the railing and tried to climb over it. I quickly grabbed her and pulled her away.
Leave me alone. This has nothing to do with you, Mr. Johnson.
There's no way I can just ignore a co-worker trying to jump off the building. At least tell me why. Richards had a very distressed look on her face. I forcibly made her sit on a bench, and she began to speak in a quiet voice. I was then told that Richards had been dating the son of a prominent client. Or rather, she had been. They had broken up just a few days ago. The reason was Richards' education background. At the end, he had insulted her by saying that women from prestigious universities are not cute.
That's not all. He insulted my mother, who raised me on her own and even sent me to college, saying
she didn't want to reveal the exact words she had been subjected to. I didn't want to hear it either, just because jumping off seems extreme.
Even if I jump from the 5th floor, it's not certain if I would die, but I get seriously injured. Below is a bush. I don't have to die, just make that guy regret so much.
I was getting angry with Richard's defiance and self-mockery. I grabbed her shoulder in a sudden impulse, turned her towards me, and yelled, "Will your life be rewarded by getting back at a lowlife with a low act? Why not become the best woman you can be and show him? It can't be that this woman who is far better at work than me, who everyone rallies on, could end it all so easily. What about the parents who lost their daughter? I'm also angry with myself. Why didn't I notice that Richards hasn't been well recently? She hasn't been eating well at lunch and her complexion is bad. I fumbled in my pocket and pulled out a cereal bar individually wrapped. Eat this. It's left over from lunch.
Huh?
You mustn't have eaten for a while. I understand that heartbreak is shocking, but you need to eat something. When you're hungry, your thoughts tend to be negative. Either she was surprised to be shouted at by a senior she had always looked down on, or she was deeply moved by the offer of a cereal bar. But Richards, for a moment, started to cry. The next moment, Richards snatched the cereal bar from me and began to eat it voraciously. Seeing her choking because she was eating too fast, I handed her a canned coffee I bought from a vending machine.
I'm sorry I didn't give you a souvenir from the trip.
I don't mind. If I spoke kindly to her, she would start to tear up again. And finally, she thanked me in a small voice. It seemed that my relationship with Richards was improving, but it didn't go as conveniently as that. A month later, Richards and I went to a negotiation with a client. Richards was the main negotiator, and I was the assistant. I wondered why a regular employee like me was chosen for this role, but this was essentially a test of Richards' capabilities. If Richards could successfully wrap up this negotiation, she would be promoted. It was somewhat annoying to admit, but I was the one selected to help her shine. However, our superiors didn't know. The client was a company where Richards' ex-boyfriend worked, and his father was the owner. Are you okay?
Yes, I can do it.
I checked with her before getting on the train, but she fooled me with her bluff. Even as I worried about her, we proceeded to the client's building and were led to the president's office. And there, as a secretary, the president's son was with him, whispering secretly into the ear of a pale-faced, frozen Richards. Didn't you know he was the secretary?
He only said it was an easy job because he got in through connections. Not a word about being a secretary.
Seeing her ex-boyfriend for the first time since their horrible breakup, it's hard to imagine the pressure it put on the surprisingly sensitive Richards. So when Richards' hand slipped and the cup fell, spilling its hot coffee onto the president's expensive suit and the computer on the table, I couldn't blame her. Fortunately, the president wasn't burned, but the computer was beyond saving. We received a complaint from the client, and both of us were summoned by the boss.
How could I? Because of me. Such an important deal. My mom, she will be disappointed.
Richards, who covered her face with both hands, was cast down. The shock was large, probably because she was so enthusiastic. Besides, Richards and her mother were living together, and the household was supported by her income. If she were fired because of this incident, what would happen to her and her mother? On the other hand, what about me? Do I have something I want to protect? Watching Richards cry, I ask myself and immediately find the answer. Facing off against the boss, who had a look of absolute fury, I stepped forward before his attention could turn towards sheepish Richards. The reason Richards spilled her coffee is because I accidentally kicked her under the table. I had athlete's foot, and it was so itchy I was moving around a lot.
What?
I signaled Richards to keep quiet, shouldering all of her blame. Then the boss turned bright red and cursed loudly enough for the entire office to hear.
This useless fool.
What happened next is pretty much a given. Being the office liability that I was promptly fired and had to leave the company. Given that I was seen as the one responsible for the scandal, there was, of course, no grand farewell party. However, an old colleague, who had joined the company the same time as I did, and I went out for a last drink and exchanged contact details. This is fine. If it would save a young, talented woman like her from being fired, then it's somewhat better that I, a man with no future, got the axe. I purposely avoided Richards until my last day. She seemed to want to talk about something, but I rejected her. If I could be the bad guy, everything would be resolved. I didn't want anyone seeing me with her and then getting nosy. After 3 years of quietly leaving the company, unmissed by anyone, I kept going to the job center. Finding a job at my age was tough, and I was rejected at dozens of interviews. While job hunting, I worked night shifts at a convenience store and restocked goods at a supermarket to make ends meet. I'm really at the end of my rope. And yet, I can't return to the rural town where my brother and his wife and my parents lived together. As I was drinking alone in my cheap apartment, feeling completely dejected, a call came in on my cell phone. The name displayed was Richards. I was surprised. "Hello? Is this Richards? I'm surprised. It's been 3 years, hasn't it? How are you?"
Yes, I'm glad to hear you're well too, Mr. Johnson.
Hearing her lively voice made me feel nostalgic. Although I had regrets about leaving the company where I had protected her, if she had managed to climb the corporate ladder for both of us, I couldn't ask for more. We caught up with some harmless chit-chat and shared recent updates. On my side, there's not much to talk about, as I continue to be rejected in interviews and I'm struggling to pay my rent. But it was endearing to hear Richards happily talking about the new cat she had recently adopted.
Would it be okay if I came to visit you sometime soon, when you're free? I got your contact details from Williams, so I can come right away.
Williams was the one colleague I had gone out for that last drink with. The sudden proposal startled me a bit. "You can come over tomorrow if you like." "But why?"
Do you remember when I didn't give you a souvenir from my trip before?
Yes, that did happen.
I bought some macadamia nut chocolates in Hawaii last week. I want to share some with you this time. It's also to return the favor for the sweets you gave me on the rooftop.
I was impressed that she remembered so well. At the same time, I was deeply moved as the conversation on the rooftop and Richard's crying face came flooding back to me. I decided to graciously accept my former subordinate's kindness. The next morning, I went for an interview. When the interviewer, who appeared to be around my age and seemed to be a manager, asked why I had left my previous job, I vaguely replied, "For personal reasons." The subtle expression on his face at the time made me realize that this one was probably going to be a no-go too, which was tough. Despite usually being oblivious, my intuition when it comes to these situations never fails me. I was told that they would inform me of the results later, and I slowly walked home in my suit.
It's been a while.
Looking up at the familiar voice, I saw Richard standing in front of my rundown apartment. Facing my lowly situation, she bowed deeply, and her sincerity was so blinding that I couldn't look directly at her. "You made it. Come in. I managed to tidy up a bit." When I ushered Richards, who was holding a paper bag, towards the stairs, she responded with a slightly nervous voice.
"No, this is fine."
"This is fine." Turning around, there stood Richards, straight as an arrow, continuing the conversation.
"The gift is just an excuse. Well, I did bring it. Actually, I've quit my job and started a new company."
Further confession from Richards was the truth behind why she was cold to me alone. When Richards was in junior high, her parents divorced and her father left the house. As a teenager going through her rebellious phase, Richards saw her father's back and thought that he had abandoned her and her mother. Since then, she had begun to dislike men of the same age as me, which seemed to be her denial of her daddy's girl self. The reason she started dating the heir of a client was apparently because she was ashamed of her true preferences for the opposite sex. "Mr. Johnson, you resemble my father little. You are just like him, not being able to use a computer and being indecisive," she said, explaining her terrible attitude. However, being saved on the rooftop made her realize that I was different from her father, and she began to feel grateful. Yet, she was distraught with guilt because she had made me quit my job.
"I heard that, Mr. Johnson, you're having trouble finding a new job, so I thought I'd create a new place for you. I was just invited by a college friend to start a company together.
Her decision and initiative, outrageous as they may seem, impressed me. Could such a young woman do so much for the person she is indebted to? I asked her hesitantly, and she blushed slightly.
I'd rather become the best woman and go get the man I love than degrade myself into a trash woman who gets back at the worst man. Isn't that cooler?
I doubted my ears, thinking it was a joke, but Richards was serious. I was at a loss for reaction for a while, but her straightforward affection moved me and I accepted her brand new business card. I'd be happy to, if you're okay with me.
Yes.
She laughed shyly as she ran out of things to say, and she looked up at the door to her room. Shall we drop by?
I have just the right tea snack.
Then Richards showed her best smile and proudly raised the paper bag. Now, I work at Richards' company. The age difference is a hurdle to reciprocate her feelings, but I want to maintain a good relationship forever.